Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and almost happy Valentine's Day. And seeing as how that is coming up this week, I decided to hot pink it up. Pink and red everything.
You always needed an excuse, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't actually wear pink a lot.
You don't?
No, I don't. I have this dress and I have one shirt.
I want you to know I don't either.
Well, you should.
That's fine.
I have some awesome little tea mugs, and I actually found some pink hummus just to add to the Valentine's feel. It's absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us, guys. And for all of you wonderful people who haven't had the opportunity to get acquainted with us, this is the Glutathione Authority, Alan Ogden. He has so many degrees, it's ridiculous. I'm just kidding.
It's true.
A degree in pharmacology and 4 degrees in nutrition, geriatric medicine, energy medicine, and he continues to educate himself in all of the amazing up-to-date information that is very much leading edge, and just so that he can come and support you guys and educate you. So thank you so much for joining us, Alan Ogden.
Thank you, and thank you, Harmony, for being here with me. And this is no accident that we are together. Harmony and I met 4 years ago. It's like 4 years and 2 days ago, according to Facebook.
Yeah, we just got our friend's anniversary thing.
Which is really funny. They didn't have any pictures. It was like, Harmony knows Alan. But anyway.
Yeah.
We've only been doing this, 2 years or something? Whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the briefest video I've ever seen. But Harmony and I met her when she wasn't feeling good. She had a concussion, severe concussion. We got together, suggested collagen protein, got her on glutathione, and then I watched this person just explode and develop. Since that time, she's taken Dr. Bradley Nelson's body code, his emotion code program, and she's also taken hypnotherapy and done extremely well in all of those programs. I think she actually kind of shocked Dr. Bradley Nelson with how well she did with his program and how quickly she absorbed that program. And since that time, she's been practicing those healing modalities. She's been helping people from all over the world because she can do that with her computer, particularly with a computer screen, which has been missing for a month. And so it's so great for me as a scientist, focused scientist, burden of proof. Why do you think that? What makes you believe that? To actually be affiliated and associated with somebody who works in an energy space where there is so much science to the energy medicine, the energy healing. It's actually kind of amazing when you get into that, how science-based it really is. Let's remember that kinesiology, which is now a degree course at university, was developed by a chiropractor and was once thought to be kind of witchcraft. And but there's just so much science behind it. Same with hypnotherapy. Now, we're not talking about the hypnotherapy that you pay money and go see somebody entertain people with.
Yeah, this isn't stage hypnosis.
It's not stage. This is clinical hypnotherapy, which is very focused on you and what you do. And today, what we'd like to do is celebrate you and celebrate the body that you're in. And I'm just going to say this up front. There's a couple of things I want you to remember. First of all, Einstein wasn't a physicist. He was a mathematician who completely upset the physics world. The Wright brothers were not aeronautical engineers. They were bicycle mechanics. And the extent to which they upset the aeronautical world is inestimable. There are many people who have made significant advances and changes, and almost without exception, they came from outside of a particular modality, a particular way of practice. So for those of you who are waiting for your doctor to actually catch up with nutritional medicine, with energy medicine, that is going to be a very, very long wait. It has been almost 100 years. It's actually 90 years. Oh no, it is almost 100 years. In 2021, it will be 100 years since Congress passed legislation in the United States prohibiting the teaching of energy medicine, of herbal medicine, of homeopathic medicine, of any nutritional programs in medicine at all. So we have had 100 years whereby all of this information that has been well known since 1800s, 1700s, when you go back into the literature, you can see where they were writing about a ketosis diet almost 3,000 years ago. And people knew this stuff, but it just got overrun and overwhelmed with the thought that the way we practiced medicine in the Western world was the way to health. So let's just think about that for a sec as we look out and just sort of view the world and take a broad look at how many healthy people are actually in the world. So with all the knowledge that we have, with all the protocols, with all the practice that we do have, illness has just skyrocketed. And it's really time for us as individuals to take our health back. So I want to just talk about celebrating you. I know Harmony has lots of things to talk about. You're here, whatever age you are. Whatever is happening in your body right now, you're still here. Contrary to what you might have been told, there are many opportunities for you to change your course in life. That's really one of the reasons why we do this program, is to help people understand you are not ever stuck with a diagnosis, you're not stuck with some situation. There are things that you can do. There are things that you can help your body do. There's all sorts of different avenues available to you now. You have to go seek those out. Some of them are becoming more mainstream, like kinesiology, hypnotherapy. But I want to encourage you to really understand it's time for you to change and celebrate you. Even if you don't like what you're seeing in the mirror, even if you don't like what you're feeling like right now, celebrate you, because you're here, and if you're here, you can change. You got into the situation somehow, and you can get out of that situation and certainly make it a lot better. So welcome to this program as we celebrate Valentine's Day, and really a lot of those changes are associated with our heart or our feeling about ourselves. Would you say that?
Yep, absolutely.
How we feel about ourselves. So a lot of things that we're dealing with in our life are actually affiliated with how we feel about ourselves. And some of those decisions could have been made when we were very, very tiny little kids, way before the age of reason. Actually, I call it way before we went to the school of logic and perfection. So before we went to school, it was okay to just be a kid. But today I was walking down the mall. I went for a walk today. I was walking down the mall. And this little girl who was dressed as a fairy was so cute because she was living in a fairy world. In this very, very busy mall, she didn't care how many adults were there. She was a fairy. And there was a lady walking beside me and she's like, oh my goodness, right out in the middle of the mall. Because it seemed like she was by herself, but she wasn't. And so I said to the lady, yeah, it's really interesting, right? How fairies can just show up anywhere. And she kind of laughed and she's like, oh, I'm sorry that you heard me. I was actually worried about that child not having somebody to take care of it. And that there was somebody there to take care of her. But she was outside the Disney store and she was a fairy. It was so amazing. So she had not yet been to the school where logic and perfection and comparison are the ways that we're taught to live our life. And many of us cannot live up to those things. And that leads to problems later on in life.
If you live in the UK, fairies and gnomes and all the rest of that are perfectly accepted part of everyday life. So she wouldn't have had to stop believing in that over there. It's really spectacular.
Is that why they have gnomes in their gardens?
Yep. And in Guernsey, they have these pooks. And they are... Pooks. They're a type of fairy. Pooks. And I actually went to the entrance, to the cave where the entrance to Pook Fairyland is. And you go in there and there are all these little porcelain figures that they've given to the Pook fairies as gifts. in hopes that they won't mess with their gardens and, because whenever there's trouble caused, it's because you haven't been honoring the pooks. And they say that the Guernsey people are so tiny because of the fact that the king fell in love with a Guernsey girl, and there was some mixed breeding going on.
Oh, that's hilarious.
They're all part fairy. But it's really fascinating, actually, that you talk about heart, because I had a lovely, lovely goddess come to me quite recently, and that was one of the big things that we had a discussion about, was the fact that she felt cut off from her heart. And I've had this with many people that I've spoken with, this feeling like, you feel numb and you don't feel things the way that you should. And what I want you guys to really understand, and this is a point that I drive home with every client that I work with, is not only are you inhibiting your ability to be able to, receive love from the outside world and others, which is what everybody really wants.
That's what they really want.
But you're inhibiting your ability to love yourself. You're cutting yourself off from your own love first and foremost. And when you do that and you're not taking care of yourself first, then you're not able to give to everybody else, and you're most definitely not going to be able to receive from anyone. So there's just this constant feeling of emptiness. And then when you don't have the communication between you and your heart, then your heart's not working with you, telling you that what you're putting in your body isn't serving you, and that certain things that are going in your body are poisoning you, and you're not able to experience the joy of unconditional love and really being able to connect with people and being in your bliss. So what's the point in being here anyways?
I always think it's really interesting when you get on the elevator. Anybody that's been in a building, you get on an elevator and there's zero conversation.
Yeah.
People have their headsets in, or they're staring at the numbers like I don't know. It's really weird to me that people have, because really deeply inside, people want to be loved and accepted, and their behavior is anything but that. It's like there's a big wall up there. Like, don't talk to me, don't ask me anything, don't certainly ask them anything about themselves. It's like, what do you want with me? And really, when I see those people, I know what they really want is somebody to just unconditionally love them, but they can't, as you said,
they won't allow
accept that. They won't allow it in because they are not happy with themselves. Here's a study that was done. So just for all you people who are wondering about science, here's a study that was done. It's been repeated many, many times. I actually had to do this when I went to university, which was really cool. I'm glad I had this experience. We were put in a very large room. There would be 100 to 200 students in this room at any given time. We were all sat at a desk, and the only thing we needed to do was look in a mirror. And we were timed. How long could you look in a mirror? Just look at yourself, actually look at you. How long could you do that? And anybody want to guess what the average was?
I want to say like 10 seconds.
Let's have some guesses.
I'm going to guess 10 seconds. I don't know the answer to this, but if you guys want to post some answers in there, that would be absolutely fantastic for sure.
Because it's really amazing.
I was just continuing while we're waiting for answers and stuff. What I was saying is, what's the point? It's really fascinating because there was a particular person that I lived with for about a month, and she was actually... she was an athlete, an Olympic athlete, training to be an Olympic athlete.
Oh yeah, right.
And she got injured and had to take a time out. And instead of actually taking a time out, she decided she was going to do 100K runs.
Oh my.
That was her idea of taking a break, even though she was injured. And I ended up realizing at that point that this was another tactic for avoidance. So when we have somebody who's utilizing substances like drugs and alcohol and stuff, that's really obvious. But, there's escaping into the internet, there's video games, there's extreme sports, like people who run for all the time. it's possible they're avoiding life. It's really, really interesting. And in all reality, when you're not, when you're cutting your heart off, when you're doing all this stuff and you're not allowing yourself to experience life, you're never going to get to really truly feel that love that you deserve to feel. But the problem is we all know that there's something that's not working, but there isn't an answer out there. Everybody that I talk to, the big thing is they're going, well, whenever I try to go get help, I talk to the doctor, or I talk to the psychologist, I talk to the counselor, I talk to whoever, I've talked to so many people, I've read so many books, I've been to so many courses and seminars and weekend things and whatever, and all we do is steep in our misery. We just bring it all up and we talk about it and get all angry and like beat stuff and like pillows and everything and like write in journals. But and then I leave angry because I never let it go. Like, how do you just let it go? And this is what I really want to talk to you guys about, is really, really honoring and loving yourself on a basic level. I know that getting to the point where clearing everything that's getting out of your way to really be able to love yourself for who you are is a journey. And the key is releasing, not steeping in. So find that person that you can work with that has found the key to releasing, like I have, and actively do with my clients that I work with. But if you take a step back, there's a very simple way to start the loving process. And I'm going to tell you that in a second. So we have 1 minute by Tanya. Mary says 30 seconds. Anne says 5 seconds. Michelle says 15. Rhonda says 20. Tracy says 20. Rick says 20. Sam says 5. So we're ranging anywhere between 5 seconds and 1 minute is the most.
Well, we got some really, really close answers. That's really cool because it's actually 14 seconds.
14
Nobody's
seconds. Going to guess 14.
Nobody's going to guess 14.
So our winner is Michelle Scott Rallis at 15 seconds. Then.
15 seconds. That's her. 14 seconds. Here's what they found. That after 14 seconds, or we can go with 15 because Michelle said 15, somewhere around there, we're splitting a hair. 14 or 15 seconds, what people started to focus on was what they saw that was wrong with themselves.
Yep.
The goal was actually to be able to look at yourself for 5 minutes. Nobody has ever made 5 minutes in the initial, like until they have some training, until they have some understanding of what's going on. But so after 14 seconds, you literally cannot prevent yourself from seeing what's wrong. I'm too fat. I'm too thin. Oh, my hair isn't just right. Oh, I have wrinkles that I didn't have before. Maybe my eyes aren't as clear as they should be. Are they really blue? I don't know. Oh, look at my ears. Maybe they're not level. We start to just pick ourselves apart like a crow with a sandwich. And it's amazing what happens. And the whole point of the exercise that we went through as part of our psych training when I was back in the day doing some pre-pharmacy stuff, as part of a psychology class. One of the things, by the way, that I learned about psychology when I went to university, psychologists and psychiatrists do not study healthy people.
It was like that doctor that saw how healthy you were, and instead of trying to study what you were doing right, jabbed you in the stomach with growth hormones.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense.
They do not study healthy people. They study sick people. They really don't have a concept of what a healthy person, healthy, balanced person should look like.
Yeah.
So it's very, very interesting. Once again, where is the change is going to come from? So getting this picture of ourselves, one that we like. And that was the whole point of this exercise. Now here's the thing. A lot of people confuse self-love with selfishness. We're given to believe that if we love ourselves, somehow we're going to become this individual who becomes completely infatuated with ourselves. That is not self-love, that's infatuation, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the ability to accept who we are as a human being. We're talking about the ability to appreciate who we are as a human being. Like, think about this. Once you learn to pick up a pencil, you've never had to learn that again, unless you're like me, having had a brain injury. You've never had to learn that again. Once you've learned how to ride a bike, you can ride a bike. Think of all the things that you are able to do that you only had to learn once. And you've never forgotten them. You're actually really, really smart. And one of the reasons is people are not machines, but we act like machines. We have onboard systems that once they're trained, they're trained. And so it is with health as well. We can have a servo mechanism that's not serving us because we don't value and appreciate ourselves for what we are. Then a problem comes in. And Harmony, you are going to give them a secret, right? To
Absolutely.
How to do this. But that's when the problem comes in. So when somebody is really, really, really overweight, and yes, true keto can help. I'm so glad we brought that to the market. It has helped so many people get started, and actually what's happening is they're changing the image of themselves. They're going, wow, I can feel better, I can look better, all those things. That's really, really cool. Ultimately, you need to change the image of yourself for long-term success. So,
first and foremost, Mary wants to know how long you were able to look in the mirror.
Oh, I was able to look in the mirror for 85 seconds. 85 seconds. I was one of the last, there was like 5 of us left in the room at that point, because once you couldn't, people would literally break down and start to cry. But
I've always had the opposite problem. My mom had one of those water beds, back in the day, in the 80s when I was a kid, and it had this big, huge headboard, with the shelves and stuff, and the center part had a big mirror, and whenever I would go and talk to her, I would be facing her, and she would have to shove a pillow in front of the mirror to get me to stop looking at myself. It's so funny, but it's totally true. Like most people are, they tear themselves apart, and it's a really huge thing to get to a point where you can look in the mirror and really love and appreciate yourself for everything that you are. So I want to give you a few little exercises that you can do, and this is stuff that I do with clients. So I want you to understand just a little bit about programming. How the subconscious mind works. So I could give you a visual. I wish I had a whiteboard behind me. So we have 5%. It is really arguable. When I was in school, the school that I taught said that the subconscious mind is 12%, the conscious mind is 5% of the mind. And then my teacher, Bradley Nelson, said 5% of the mind is the conscious mind. And then there was somebody else that was teaching and said that it was like 0.011. So the conscious mind is a significantly small portion of the mind where we are actually using logic, okay? Pretty much everything else is being driven by the subconscious mind. So before we are 8 years old, we are highly suggestible, and we basically create all of our knowns about, positive knowns and negative knowns about the world. So everything that happens goes in, and the 3 ways that the mind is programmed is authority, trauma, and repetition. And those 3 things, if you were to take all 3 of them together, it's even more powerful, and sometimes that happens. And those are the ones that are really entrenched in there.
Can I give them an acronym?
Yeah.
It's like art. Okay, authority, repetition, and trauma. It's like art, so you can remember it really easy. ART.
Yeah, so I play with 2 out of the 3, not the trauma, because that's not very much fun, but I am the authority and I use repetition. I also support my clients using repetitive tools to reprogram their mind. And so we will find what's called post-hypnotic suggestions. Post-hypnotic suggestions can be put into the mind through watching movies, listening to music, advertising. Yeah, exactly. So we'll take things and flip it and create positive mantras for them to change those post-hypnotic suggestions. And I will anchor those in. We'll release the one that's not working for them and anchor the new positive one in that is. And then I will tell them, this is your new mantra, and I want you to say this. I want you to write it on your mirror, and I want you to say it over and over and over and over again. So here's a couple of things that you can do. Number one is affirmations. Now, I want you guys to really, really understand that affirmations work. They always have been working, and you are constantly using them. Mm-hmm. So when we are 8 years old, we have the critical mind that develops between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The critical mind has a bouncer or a bodyguard, okay? This bouncer does or does not allow information into the subconscious mind based on the knowns that it already has in the subconscious mind. It is biased towards those belief systems. So if I was to tell you, you are beautiful, and you've got a program in there going, I'm ugly, then the bouncer is going to go, nope, that doesn't work, I'm ugly, and chuck it out the window, right? So I want you to really understand how incredibly important this is, because some people teach that everything goes into your mind unfiltered. That's actually BS, okay? You've got a bouncer there. You've had that bouncer there since you were 8 years old, and it has been protecting you from taking in new programs.
Right.
So the ideas will come into the conscious mind, and it will go into the critical. It'll only sit in the conscious mind for about an hour to an hour and a half. Then it goes into the critical mind, and it will sit there until you go to sleep, basically. And there's no way, in order to get it into the subconscious mind, unless you figure out how, because if the bouncer doesn't like it, it's just going to chuck it. To bypass the bouncer, you're either going to do something just before you go to bed, because you're going into theta, right? Pretty quickly after you've stated whatever it is you're gonna state. So you bypass the bouncer that way. The other way is to go and see a hypnotherapist and do hypnotherapy and get into those brain waves and then have that suggestion put in there, okay? So if there are particular things that you become aware of, this is really, really beautiful. You can use the exercise that Alan actually suggested. Look in the mirror for about a minute and start to listen to what's coming up. My thighs, I have thunder thighs, my stomach isn't flat, I have flabby arms, my teeth aren't white enough. Observe all of that stuff, but get a pen and a piece of paper and write it down.
Right, yes.
Because you can hear the broken record playing all the time, but if you take a time out and you observe it and listen to it and then record it, then what you can do, because beautifully, you're reaffirming that stuff to yourself all the time.
All the time.
All the time. This is how affirmations work.
It's actually one of the reasons why most positive affirmations don't work.
Yep.
Is because the bouncer is kicking them out. Because your other program is actually saying, no way, no way. Because you haven't accessed it yet. You haven't actually had that talk with yourself where your brain, you've been able to unload all of those things you're thinking about yourself in a way that you, right?
Yeah,
self-observation.
You make an observance and honor those programs, and then write them down, and then sit down and do an exercise, which is basically flipping those negative beliefs. So if we have, I'm ugly, you're going to flip that to, I am a beautiful goddess. If you say I have thunder thighs, you're going to say I have beautiful, strong legs that I can strangle a man with. Whatever you want, right? Make them positive, flip them, and then what you're going to do is you're going to repetitively say those affirmations to yourself before you go to bed. So make a list of 7 to 10, right? And then you're going to have that book beside your bed, and you're going to open it up and you're going to read them to yourself before you go to sleep, and then go to sleep, and it's going to bypass the critical mind or the bouncer and go right into your subconscious mind. Do that for about 30 days, and all of a sudden you're going to find yourself feeling a lot sexier when you're looking in the mirror. It's a really, really, really powerful tool, and you can use this to flip anything, because I want you to understand that as a hypnotherapist, I am trained to understand that you are actually way more suggestible to yourself than you are to me. Yes. And so it's my job to understand how you communicate, how you give and receive information, whether you do it through hearing, whether you do it through sight, because you know some people will say, oh, I see what you're saying. Can you really see somebody's words? No. Or somebody will say, I hear what you're saying, or, oh, I feel that.
Yeah, I feel that.
I totally feel what you're saying. So you actually have to listen to people's language and figure out exactly how they communicate, whether it's inference or literal, how they sense things. And then what you're doing is actually getting their words. And then when you get them in hypnosis, you're just feeding their words back to them. So understand that you have the power and the ability to be able to do this for yourself. The other thing that you can do is you can use a gratitude jar. This is actually a really fun exercise for you guys to do with your family. And now that it's the new year, and we're only about a month or so into the new year anyways, you could start now and go right up until the end of the year. So you get a gratitude jar and then just write something, just something really small every day and throw it in the jar. And everybody can do it as a family. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful we're having a wonderful dinner tonight. I'm grateful to have my Probita. I'm grateful I lost a pound, whatever.
Right.
Make a list. And then at the end of the year, so New Year's, you all come together as a family and pull out the gratitudes from the jar and read all of the great things that you were grateful for throughout the year. And it's a really beautiful way to start the new year because it just brings everything to a really, really positive place. And practicing gratitude every day, believe it or not, reprograms your mind to focus on the positive. So it's another really powerful way to use positive affirmations in the form of gratitudes to reprogram the mind. Another thing that I have my clients do, piece number 3, is that I get them to do a self-love journal. And if you guys are curious about this, I actually do have an infographic that I can post on the GA page so that you guys can have the actual blueprint for how to do it. So there's 5 different things that I actually have them list, but one of the big things that I have them write down is what they did to love and honor themselves today, and to celebrate successes for the day, and to rate their happiness on a scale of 0 to 10. So you're actually writing down successes, you're making a concerted effort to doing something every single day that's self-loving, and then you're writing it down. And because you know that you're going to have to write it down at the end of the day, you're going to be holding yourself accountable, and you're going to think, have I done something to love myself today? And then you're going to go and do it. And when you do this on a regular basis, you write down wins and you write down gratitudes and you write down things that you're doing to love yourself. And then you're making note of where your happiness is. You're going to notice that over a period of time, you're going to find yourself somehow feeling a lot more self-loving and a lot more gratitude and a lot more positive, because all you're doing is focusing on consistently, daily, every night, before you go to bed, bypassing the critical mind or the bodyguard, positive, loving, self-loving affirmations, right? It's just another way essentially to affirm the positive. So those are 3 really, really powerful ways to use, call it self-hypnosis, to reprogram the mind. And like I said, if you guys want that infographic, I am absolutely happy to share that for you. So what kind of tools have you got, Alan?
Well, one of the things I want people to do is, when you're on true keto and you make a dietary change out of love for yourself, you go, you know what, I'm not going to eat that donut. I'm going to make a different choice. I want you to note those changes and note them. Note them because you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it out of love for yourself.
Yeah.
Because you've decided to take care of yourself. You've decided to treat yourself better. You've decided that you're going to look better, feel better. So just make little notations. I avoided this today and I chose this instead. What a great act of self-love that was. And it will really enhance your ability to control your weight and how you feel about yourself.
Yep.
And I'm just going to suggest this, that pounds are going to drop off a lot more quickly when you do that. So the other day I was with my nephew, and we were talking about this, and they've got a little gal, and my niece she's thinking about now she's got to get back in shape. She's done breastfeeding and all that kind of stuff, and so this is one of the things we talked about. And as how she could make these choices, because she has tried losing weight before. And I said, well, just make the choice, like when you're making that conscious choice, don't make it as like, oh, I'm denying myself. That's not setting yourself up for failure. Well, that's setting yourself up for failure. Make it out of love for yourself. I'm choosing to eat this because I love myself. And I'm sure that people that are on here, Mary Lou Westcott, Michelle, Scott Rawls, a whole bunch of people who have in the last couple of years lost a whole bunch of weight, can attest to this, that when they were doing that, they began to understand the changes that they were making dietarily were having profound effects on them emotionally. And the two together is what allows you to keep the weight off, to keep going, and accept yourself as this new thin person, this new fit person, this new individual. Okay, because one of the challenges people have when they don't change the programming is no matter what you do, you will go to the mirror, and like Harmony was saying, if you're not listening to what you're saying to yourself, those affirmations will be running behind. I have thunder thighs. I can't lose weight. It doesn't matter what I do. I've tried this before. It's not going to work. You will have all sorts of affirmations going on in the background that, in spite of all the good things you're doing, is going to sabotage what you're doing. So it's one of the reasons when people take supplements, here's what I like to say. When you're taking supplements, and someday we're going to do just a talk on supplements, but just as a little side here, when you're taking your immunity, when you're taking whatever it is you're taking, I always say to myself, I'm confirming my good health. I'm not taking it to avoid disease. I want you to know that. I think that's a really terrible way to look at supplementation. You know, I'm doing this because I don't want to have heart disease, or I'm doing this because I don't want to have cancer, or I'm doing this because I don't want to have something. Actually, what you're doing is affirming the possibility of you having those things.
Yeah, don't use statements that have don't, not, and no in them.
Right.
If you find yourself using any type of an affirmation that is saying, I'm not going to do this anymore, or I don't want to create this, make it a positive statement. I am such and such.
So when I do my supplements, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm doing this to enhance my good health. I'm doing this to stay young. I'm doing this to stay healthy. I'm doing this so I can play with my grandkids. I'm doing this because it makes me feel better. I'm doing this because it makes me look better. It makes taking these supplements really easy. And then when it comes down to things like, well, somebody said this to me the other day, like, wow, I'm spending like whatever they were, $200-300 a month on supplementation. Like, no, you're not. You're spending $200 or $300 taking care of yourself right now. Instead of later on when maybe you can't do it, or later on when it's going to cost a whole lot more, you're actually doing it in a preventative way. You're really honoring yourself by taking care of yourself.
Especially if you live in the States.
Especially when you live in the States. Yes.
Those of us here with universal health care, we get a little bit more benefits in that regard, but still, if you get cancer in Canada, it's expensive.
It's expensive. And just the time lost at work and just all of that kind of stuff. And then just, finally, I want to talk about this because my dear friend Linda Morgan Henry went on a beautiful trip. She came home, she got the flu, and it wiped her out for 7 days. And she was a little bit surprised because she's been taking her immunity and she's been doing a lot of things. And I just want you to know, you are going to get sick. That is part of life. Our immune system is going to get challenged. And it's actually a fairly good thing to know how really strong your immune system is. So one of the things Linda said was, well, compared to a lot of other people, I got through it really easy. And that's absolutely true. So I had that experience happen. When I first started optimizing my glutathione and I was feeling really good, I hadn't had a flu, I hadn't had a cold, I hadn't had anything for quite a period of time, and I got really sick. And I was like, well, what's this? I'm the guy that's supposed to know everything about the immune system, and I'm the guru. And here's this little bug that I can't even see, like it's just wiped me out. What's with that? And I began to realize, you know what? This is how life works. We do run into things that we don't know how to handle on our immune system in lots of...
Emotionally. Actually, it's really interesting that you said that. Quick side note. Because it's really, really important to understand that when I'm doing the work with my clients and I zero them out and get them to a really beautiful place and stuff, I tell them that there's going to be stuff that's going to come along in life where you are absolutely going to get triggered. And the optimal response is to get triggered, figure out what it is. Is it something in the now, or is it something that needs to be sourced from before? Clear it, get back to a vibration of love. And it's the same thing with a physical challenge. You're always going to get physically challenged. It's just a matter of making sure that in the very beginning that your immune system is optimized, your defense system is going to go to work and do what it needs to do, and you're going to get back to a healthy place.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And here's what I want to tell you. Give yourself that space. When something like that happens, I remember the first time it happened, I was so sick. It was brutal. It was really bad. And one of the things I found is that I was kind of angry at myself. You know, here I am, I'm the guru, I'm the glutathione authority, I'm whatever, all that stuff. And after about the third day of really not being able to get out of bed, I was like, you know what, I got to change how I'm looking at this. And I began to really appreciate the fact, first of all, that I was alive, that my immune system was working as hard as it was to keep me alive. Mm-hmm. And everything was perfect. Like, think about it. If this was perfect, this is exactly what's supposed to happen. Now, usually it happens without us having any symptoms. But this time, I was just noticing some symptoms. I was noticing literally how hard my immune system was coming to my defense. I really began to appreciate that whole situation. And then I went, you know what? I just have to give my body, give myself the space to do this. It's just making me better. And if it takes 3 or 4 or 5 days, whatever it is, so be it. That's the way it is. If something else happened in my life that was traumatic, maybe the death of a family member or something else, I would take 4 or 5 days, forget everything else, and deal with it. But when it came to myself, I was actually feeling kind of guilty about it. And I had to let that go and go, you know what? This is me. I need this space right now. And that made it a lot easier. And I think I got over whatever it was a lot faster because I just came to grips with it. I just came to appreciate, hey, this is okay. It's all good. Everything's going to be perfect. And I haven't really had the flu since at that time. So it all worked out. So, you know, when you're challenged, you're challenged. It's all good.
One of the things that I really want to help you guys to focus on is understanding how important the self-work is and taking that time out to really, really love and honor yourself. It's really amazing how we've been programmed in society. Just like Alan, he just gave us a perfect example of that, how he actually wasn't feeling well and got hard on himself.
Yeah.
He was hard on himself because he's like, I'm supposed to be perfect all the time and I'm supposed to be perfectly healthy and this isn't acceptable and I'm not a good example. And instead of understanding that we have these ebbs and flows, and it was really interesting. One of my clients, she was really emotional and she was saying that she was having a breakdown. And I said, can we switch that and call it a breakthrough? Right. Because it's not breakdowns. You are not weak for being emotional. You're not weak because you've been knocked down by something. That is not what's going on. That is you taking a time out to love and flow stuff that is not serving you. To take a time out to heal something that is potentially attacking your body. I had to take a time out when I had a concussion in order for my brain to heal. Does that make me weak? No, absolutely it doesn't. So when you have a really difficult time and you find that you're really emotional, instead of burying it and shutting it down and trying to be functional the way that society tells you to do, honor and love and appreciate that and take the time to flow the emotions. Take a time out. Tell the kids that you need a bath. Tell somebody else to make dinner tonight, and you honor yourself and allow the emotions to flow. And if you can source them and find out what they're linked to and chuck them out the window, then do that. This isn't you being weak and it's not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. We need to work together to start to change the way that we think about how we're supposed to function in this world. We are allowed to have ebbs and flows. We get tired in the wintertime because it's time to hibernate.
Because it's dark.
Yeah, it is normal. We are
Right.
not connected with the ebbs and flows of the seasons because we're in buildings all the time. And so we're supposed to just be functional all the time. If you feel tired and you want to sleep for 12 hours, do it. I've done it many times this winter, just saying. And I don't feel guilty. I don't. I love my sleep. And if I need more beauty rest, it is all good. I don't think about how long I sleep. I sleep until I'm done. Because that's what my brain needed, that's what my body needed. And in the summertime, I'll sleep less. So just make a concerted effort, because all of you guys that have been through a lot emotionally, you know that when you try to jam it down there, for some weird reason, it keeps coming back up.
Yeah.
And it comes up when you don't want it to. So instead of doing that, take a time out and honor yourself, honor your ebbs and flows. Let that stuff come out. Let that stuff surface, let it flow. And when you're sick, don't be hard on yourself. Take that time out and make your man, well, my man anyways does this for me, makes me chicken soup. He makes homemade chicken soup and it's so amazing. But get some really beautiful, healthy food and snuggle under the blankets and watch some Netflix and take some downtime. Read a book if your brain is functioning enough to do so. I just want you guys to start to question the way that we are being asked to function.
Yeah.
And really connect with the ebbs and flows of the seasons. Because we used to, before we lived in houses, we were connected. And we were only eating based on what we could pick out of a tree or kill ourselves. Straight up, that's how it was. Now, we have access to all the food all the time. And so we don't have to censor ourselves or think about what we're eating because everything is at our fingertips. We don't have to think about what it's doing outside because we can constantly be indoors and comfortable. But it's time for us to start thinking about ourselves and our bodies and how we used to be before all of that and really connecting with those ebbs and flows and honoring it. This is a part of how we can really embrace Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Connect with yourself first, because I want you to understand that you can't love anybody else unless you are healthy. You've got to love yourself first. Then you can love all of those around you. So spend the next few days, even if it's leading up to Valentine's Day, putting some of these great things that we've suggested into practice to love yourself and see how it affects your ability to be able to give back and love others. I know all of you women out there have so much that you have to do for everybody else, and you become these caregivers that are giving to the point where it's detrimental to your health. It is actually affecting your ability to be there for them. And if you just make a shift and choose yourself first, foremost, and always, you'll actually be surprised when you make that space for yourself and always honor and love yourself, how much more energy and how much healthier you will be to be there for everybody who needs you. And instead of giving to everybody else, just be. Just be love. Don't give it away. And everybody around you will benefit.
So I just want to kick in here with the end of my psychology class. So we looked in the mirror for a few seconds. Some people, the longest anybody made it, by the way, nobody made it to 2 minutes. My 85 seconds, somebody else was like 95. Somebody made it 100, well, 120 seconds is 2 minutes. That was very, very unusual. Found out after that person had done the experiment before. You can't give what you don't have. And I know that when I first started down this road, one of the questions that came up to me is, my goodness, how am I supposed to fit that in now with all the other stuff I have to do? And I found out that if you can hold a thought for 17 seconds, that thought will build on another thought, which will build on another thought. And if you can hold a thought about yourself for 64 seconds, it's not very long, a little over a minute. If you can look at yourself and appreciate yourself for 64 seconds, just a little over a minute, 4 seconds over a minute, that actually can start to change everything that's going on in your body. How you see about yourself, how you feel about yourself. Now, no one can say to me, I don't have 64 seconds in my day. 64 seconds before you get out of bed in the morning, 64 seconds sometime in the afternoon, 64 seconds at night, 64 seconds. When I heard that, I was so relieved. It was like, wow, okay, I can do that. When I found out I could do that, then I found out, you know what, there's times when I was in different places where I had 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I could block out everything that was going on around me. I do that when I'm on the train. I do that when I'm in a taxi. I do that when I'm in an airplane. I do that in lots of different places where I have the ability just to block everything else out and have conversations with myself and review. Go to the theater of my own mind and review stuff. And how am I talking to myself? How am I doing? How am I doing with other people? So wonderful to connect with yourself. As you learn to connect with yourself, you'll definitely connect with other people. You will be more fulfilled than you've ever been before. And this will be the greatest Valentine's Day gift that you've ever received. So
I really appreciate all the amazing feedback, you guys. I know all the stuff that we're saying is really reaching your hearts. Tanya was talking about feeling bad just for being tired lately, and she was saying that she's got a daughter, and it makes her feel bad when she's not able to be there for her. And it's really important when you've got kids. I totally understand it. I've got an 18-year-old, and he's not totally grown up yet. They need you just as much in their teenage years, and it can be really taxing. And I had to, one morning when I was trying to get him to do something, I just had to go, you know what? I have people that I have to serve and everything, so I'm going to choose myself right now and do what I have to do for myself. And it was actually really amazing because he spent the rest of the day doing things for me because he realized all of a sudden how much he was taxing me. So making that choice to make people aware, make your family aware, and choosing yourself and taking that time out, and remember that you are setting an example for those around you, taking that time out and going and spending time in nature and, meditating or praying or, whatever it is that you do for your self-nourishment, taking baths and stuff. When you set that routine for yourself, your children are going to see how important self-care is, and they will end up doing the same things for themselves. So not only are you serving yourself and taking care of yourself, but then you're helping them to create those same routines moving forward. And it's really funny when I'm working with clients and I'm trying to get them to choose to do things for themselves. Initially, when they can't always do that, I will stop and say to them, if you do this, you're going to be serving others because you're going to benefit, because blah, 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 yakety schmackety. Or if, you take the time to smell the flowers later when you get through this, you're going to be able to help people because you'll remember what it was like walking the path. So you are always serving others when you are serving yourself. Let go of the word selfish and go with self-care, self-love. And teach that to your children. Start to teach them to choose something self-loving and self-caring for the day. Whatever that is, even if it's playing with Lego for a while, if that's their bliss, right? Yeah. This is a beautiful, beautiful way to honor Valentine's Day. I know that it's all about consuming and buying stuff for your partner and taking people out and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Scott and I are not celebrating Valentine's Day on Valentine's Day because the Magic Circle is having a banquet on the 15th, the next day, and there's going to be amazing food and magic and all the rest of that. So we're going to be participating in that the next day. So my Valentine's Day is going to be serving and giving love to others, and then the rest of the day will be spent loving and honoring myself first. And then the 15th, I will give back to my partner.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for all of
And Robin, yes, Harmony will post.
Oh yeah, and somebody was asking me what I'm eating. I'm eating some really fantastic brown rice crackers, and this is a beet hummus. in case you are looking for a nice little treat for Valentine's Day. And I'm getting some messages of people saying that they want me to share some of the ideas on the page for what it is that we can possibly do to love ourselves more. So I will be sharing those infographics and ideas on Glutathione Authority so that you can follow through. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. We love all of you out there and appreciate you so much. And I hope that you have an amazing Valentine's Day, loving yourself and all of those around you. And we'll see you again next week, Monday, 6:30 Pacific Standard Time. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.